Okay, so first things first, ignore the mess. Everything is very messy behind me. I've got things where I don't really need them. Trying to set things up to push forward on this next big project that we're about to embark on. And I just kind of wanted to get a video out about it to kind of explain my thought process, where we are, where we need to be, which is still a little bit in flux. So before like any kind of real goals can be set, I'm kind of setting basic goals for myself to see if we can hit them. If we can't hit them, we can't hit them. Hopefully we can hit them. Hopefully the stuff that I'll be producing will be of interest and be entertaining enough that we will hit these milestones. It's kind of the point of the project is to see if what I can put out and force me to kind of put it out, because there's a goal, there is something to achieve. So yeah, that's kind of what this video is going to be about. It's focusing on the CakeyVerse. So this video will be going up on what at the moment is known as the Cakey Boy Productions channel. This channel will be changing to the CakeyVerse channel. So anything that comes up on this YouTube channel in the future will be to do with the CakeyVerse. That's what this channel is for. I will be changing the logos, headers, all that kind of stuff. I haven't decided if I will be hiding the earlier videos or just leaving them. I'll probably leave them. They're not so much CakeyVerse, but a lot of that stuff that's in those videos probably will end up being wound up into the CakeyVerse. And I have to stop saying CakeyVerse, so I have to give it a better name that I don't feel so stupid saying. So for those of you who don't know, the CakeyVerse is kind of the amalgamation, if you like, of all of my writing projects. So just like Marvel and DC and Disney and all this kind of things, and apparently the internet, everything has to become a universe now, right? It's a universe of its own. So in that kind of spirit, but without the money or the conceit to try and make it any good, I'm doing the same kind of thing. I'm kind of wrapping everything that I've ever done up into one great big ball, which is the CakeyVerse. And coming from that will be a lot of different angles, a lot of different stories. I'll be able to tell stories from different perspectives. So I think it should be exciting, and on a lot of different platforms. YouTube is not the only one. We have a world building site over on World Anvil, which is where a D&D game will eventually be played in the kind of first iteration of the CakeyVerse, if you like, which is, so what I'm building at the moment is kind of, it's hard to say it's the first because it's more towards the end of what you would consider a normal timeline. So to give a brief overview, the idea is that universes, there are many universes, and they are made by a corporation for reasons as yet unknown, and a very heightened ideal of myself, the Piece of Cake character, if you like, who is just me, got a job at this corporation who makes universes. This may sound a little bit like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and there's obviously a little bit of inspiration from there. But to make these universes is very much a desk job. So you're sat down at a computer in your little cubicle and you're making the universes, and you've got your procedures, your rules. You've got to follow the rules and procedures. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I'm not a big fan of following rules and procedures or even reading instructions. So I kind of winged it, or at least the Piece of Cake character did, kind of winged it, and made a universe. Didn't follow the rules. That universe existed for a certain amount of time. I don't want to give firm dates at the moment because there will be stories told before we hit this date as well. Not only leading into what is kind of the timeline of the universe where I want people not just myself, but people to be able to really play around and enjoy the world, the universe as it stands, when they all kind of come together. So the reason that they're all kind of coming together is because this fictional version of myself didn't follow the rules, didn't follow the procedures. All of my planets, solar systems, that kind of stuff, they're all starting to go wrong, and it is all my fault, fictionally speaking. And so what happens is, obviously, if the boss finds out about this, I'm gonna get fired. So I have to sweep it under the rug, but also make it seem like it, you know, sweeping it under the rug isn't going to last very long. So you got to think on your feet. And then thinking on my feet, I come up with this idea of, I'm kind of going to force all of these different life forms who've been created in my universe on this kind of life raft planet. And I'm going to give them, and this is kind of where all the stories that kind of lead up to any race, any peoples, whatever, who exists in the CakeyVerse. And the CakeyVerse, even though it encapsulates everything, when I'm talking about the CakeyVerse now, I am talking about this kind of this lifeboat planet that exists. And kind of, even though it's the end, it's also the beginning. So, where was I? I don't know. This is the problem. But so they all come together on this kind of this lifecraft planet, and as the creator, the guy behind the desk job, the guy behind the screen, you're not allowed to directly interact with any life forms that may occur from your universe, but you can give like certain nudges. You can give them options, all this kind of stuff. So a lot of the stories that lead up to where we are now will be kind of the introductions of, and they will all start with, the planet is dying. You know, our world is dying. What do we do now? And then we'll follow the story of how these people got to this life raft planet in a kind of Noah's Ark, but on a bigger scale kind of idea. And then we will be telling the stories. And I want to push for interaction. I don't know how that works. I'm not going to lie, I haven't really figured out how to make this kind of idea insanely interactive at the moment, but that is kind of what I want to hit. But that's kind of where it all began, and that's why on this CakeyVerse lifeboat planet, there are life forms that don't make any sense. There are different versions of magic. The magic rules from one planet to another would have been different. As these different species bring their world, their history, their culture, and in one case, literally a piece of their world, onto this life raft planet, there's these things that don't make sense. You know, like, it doesn't make sense for there to be a species of sentient giant cakes. They don't realize that they are what some people on this new lifeboat planet would call confectionery. They're there to eat. They don't know that. They've only ever been sentient cakes, and they've never once thought to eat themselves or make smaller versions of themselves to eat. But, you know, this kind of thing will happen. It makes no sense that there is a race of giant sentient crabs who are super violent, who end up on this planet. And again, all of these bring in their own rules, their own gods, their own legends, their own myths, and they all kind of mix together. But on top of that, this life raft planet also has its own gods, its own purpose, and it's how we mix all of these together, which is what we will mainly be exploring as we go. A key part of that will be through some kind of D&D-esque campaign. And I'm hoping that I can do a lot of them, whether it be... Obviously, I won't be able to host a lot or Dungeon Master a lot of them, but I'm hoping that we can get people involved and have some kind of system in place where they, you know, you can kind of play along. You can put your own character into this world, play along, and you'll get different outcomes. And I want to be able to take those different outcomes and kind of put them into the narrative, weave them into this story. But this is all far out in the future. My main goal at the moment is, so what we are working towards, why I mentioned the cakes in particular, is I wrote a short story a long time ago now about somebody called Inspector Gosh. Gosh is a local fruit loaf, is what Gosh is. And Inspector Gosh is just a slice of said Gosh who lived in the cake world. But there's the potential for Inspector Gosh to be made into something bigger. But what I've signed up to now is to say, okay, well, if I can increase my presence, I guess, you know, it's business. You have to try and make it a sellable commodity. So my mission right now is to put the effort in to making not only myself, but also the idea a saleable commodity in this more internet-focused world. That's what the CakeyVerse channel is for. That's what the milestones are going to be. And there are some very obvious ones that I can think of. You know, YouTube, you have to have a certain number of followers who you can have a vanity URL. We would clearly want one. That's a milestone we would like to hit. I don't know that number off the top of my head. I think it's 1,000. You know, at the moment, I think we have like 18. So there's a long way to go. And it's going to be about putting the content out, hoping people are interested, invested, and then hopefully I can get input from people. All of the content will be free, but obviously to make it work, we will need support. But again, if the content is good enough, hopefully people will support it in the various different ways that they can. So this is kind of the kickoff thing. My initial milestone is going to be, can we get the followers? Can we get to the followers where we can get a vanity URL? That's kind of my first milestone. I'm not setting a deadline on it. Eventually a deadline will be set on all of these, and I will share that with people as and when I know them. But this is kind of this is the kickoff. This is where we're starting from. I'm not quite ready to go into details of what is going to be on this channel and how often. What I can say is the Otherworld News, which there is an episode of this on this channel. There is an episode of the Otherworld News, will be changing tactic and becoming purely about the CakeyVerse, or explore. It will be about exploring what is happening in the world, but then, you know, putting it through the lens of the CakeyVerse, while also building CakeyVerse own stories into that as well. That's going to be how the world will progress mostly during this initial phase. Those will be videos. They will look very much like this. It will just be me. This is a solo project. Hello. While I was editing, it turned out that my audio interface turned off halfway through. So the video ends kind of abruptly, and I don't really remember what I was saying. So rather than wasting the video, I'm going to put this at the end and say thank you for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Goodbye for now.